That the live is now working. Welcome to a Thursday. Welcome to a Thursday in December. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been live. I'm trying to keep up this habit, so here we go. We're trying it again, and supposed to have a guest to come and join us this morning. So we'll see if they show up, and if not, then we're just going to get into it and just hang out. So if you've got questions, you're absolutely welcome to share them, and I'm excited to hang out with you and chat about stuff. So let me pull up the chat. I'm going to keep this up on the side. Connection looks like it's holding pretty well. It is. We're now almost into Christmas. So how's your Christmas season going? How's your preparing for Christmas? You got a Christmas tree up? I'm assuming you do. You getting any writing in? If you're a fiction author out there, you getting any storytelling in? It can be a challenge, I think, in the Christmas season to keep a habit going. So if you have a habit, what works for you? This is the first morning where I actually wrote a little bit of a short story myself. I got about halfway through, I think, which was pretty cool. About maybe 1,500 to 2,000 words or so. It might be about a 4,000 word story, so not a huge deal, but long enough. One of the things that we've been doing, and we'll get to this in a little bit as we get into the news section of this show, but normally we have like a contest or an anthology going with LegendFiction, and we actually have like 5 going right now, and I've got about 3 to 4 more that I'm going to be adding. The idea is as soon as you can join the community, there's a ton of events and anthologies and story adventures that you can go on, that you can start writing for. And the coolest thing is to just create like a world of an anthology, and then to have so many different community members writing and creating content stories and just creating pitches. And one of the major things that I'm noticing, and it's because it's hard to do, everybody's learning how to do it. One of the things I'm noticing is everybody has a tough time. You come up with a really cool idea, and then you forget that a story is carried by a character. Now, one difference can be, hey, we actually have our guest with us. I'm going to welcome him into the studio. Hey, Edmund, looks like you are now live with us, just talking about storytelling. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you fine. We are live right now. We went live a couple of minutes ago.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
looks
trying
like
to figure out how
you're.
to change my camera. I might leave and come
Yeah,
back
if
in.
you
I'm
have to
having
bounce in
issues.
and out, that's
Okay,
fine. I'll just keep
I will do.
monologuing over here like a villain.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah. Uh, so major challenge that we often have with stories, right, is coming up with a really compelling character. What is a compelling character? We struggle with it sometimes. Um, that's one thing. I think another thing that uh, sometimes the character is not the point of the story. It can be the situation and the fact that a character has to learn something, but those are much, much harder to do. It's kind of like the situation or the environment is the character. That's a that is much more of a challenge to stick that landing. So finding a way to make an actual character really interesting, that is the challenge. All right, let me see if we can get Edmund back in here. Hey, you made it back in. How are you?
Hey, sorry about that. My
No
cannon's
worries.
not my cannon's not working, but I can figure that out another time.
No, not a problem. Let me get both of us on screen here. There we go. It's been a minute since we've chatted. How have you been?
Good. Busy. Good. Yeah, kind of like a big new season of life with a lot of new projects. What about yourself?
Likewise, I'd say the same thing. Yeah. Hey, I'm getting a bit of audio feedback. Try switching on your echo cancellation, or if you have a pair of headphones, it's a good idea.
All right.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, just what we're doing here, so that we don't have any dead air. Try to go live every week. Largely, I need to build up the habit. Second, YouTube loves it as an algorithm. 3, it's
Yeah.
just nice to hang out with people, and I can stop scheduling people ad hoc, and we can just start building like a habit. Now, I am still getting a bit of feedback. Let me check your settings here. You do have echo cancellation on. Am I coming through your headphones?
Not yet. 1 second.
Testing. So yeah, I'm trying to go live weekly and like schedule a guest. And of course, the minute that you go and create a schedule, God laughs and your dentist calls. And so the last couple of weeks we've been like completely out. And the next week I'm going to be out. And I'm trying to think if I should just maybe move to a different day, because Thursdays all of a sudden are everybody's favorite day. So yeah. All right. How's it coming through? Sounding okay? Sounds good, I think, on my end.
Yeah, do I sound great now?
Yeah, you sound good. Audio levels sound good. Do I sound loud enough?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, sweet. Maybe people will drop in and maybe not. I have a private group in Legend Fiction called the Collaboratory, which is like a laboratory for collabing. And they're invited to all come and jump in on this whenever they want. So I just sent them a little ping. Maybe they'll join. We got about maybe a half hour, unless you want to stick around for longer. But we have
Oh, that's great.
1, 2, 3, maybe 5 sections, and you're our guest for today. So we'll start with openings, kind of where we are. We'll then move into a little bit of community news and updates, and then we'll go over to you, author of the week or guest of the week. And then we'll talk about project updates, where we are with writing. And then lastly, we'll have some AMA rapid fire questions. The goal is to see how uncomfortable can I make you in about 5 minutes with as many questions as I can hit you with.
I love that.
Sweet. Okay, and friends, as you jump on and join and say hi in the chat, and we would love to answer your questions. It's an author AMA. Guest is Edmund Mitchell. All right. I did want you to, join the Legend Haven Con. It didn't work out, and so turns out you're actually eyeballs deep. That's a weird thing to say. Neck deep in a whole new project with AI and stuff like that. And I'm really interested to get around to catching up with you on where that is. Before we get into everything, give us a quick overview. What is this amazing project that you're now working on? And here's why I'm interested, because you used to be involved with Catholic Creatives. You're very creative yourself, and AI is a hot topic, and it's one that's been a challenge to negotiate in our community. And I've taken a more AI forward approach. A bunch of our members didn't or don't like it. I don't think that it's something that's going to go away. And so to find, or someone like you who's going all in on, and I want to know how you're going all in on how to think about it, how to use it specifically as Christian creatives, because I think we have a much higher bar in our appreciation for what creativity means and is, and then how we're involving machines, machine learning, and commissioning machines to help co-create stuff with us. And so, yeah, what's the high level overview? And then we'll come back and get into it in more detail later. But yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited. I like your community. I like talking with you. We always have a good time when we're talking about ideas and the faith and just just creation, content creation in general. So probably like many people in the audience, I just started dabbling with AI and getting involved in it and realizing like a lot of people, this is going to be a huge thing. And I'm a full-time Catholic content creator and digital entrepreneur. And my friend, really good friend and coworker, in a lot of ways, partner, Edmundo Reyes, he owns an agency called Digital Continent. And we had been talking about AI and using AI for a lot of different like situations and contexts and stuff. And he had the opportunity to go to an AI summit at the Vatican and heard all these really smart academics, theologians, philosophers, ethicists, all these people talking about AI. And he thought, man, if only like everyday Catholics could overhear these conversations and also in a podcast format, kind of have someone asking the dumb questions, like kind of bringing it down. So then the idea for Faith in AI was born, and the goal of the project is to help Catholics understand, navigate, and harness AI with the wisdom of the church. So understanding what's going on with AI, navigating a lot of the moral and ethical questions and challenges, and then harnessing AI. Like how do we use AI in our daily lives or in our spiritual lives or in our work? So that was the idea of the project. It was styled a lot after Diary of a CEO. Edmundo and I both really we really love that project. And the idea was to get these experts on. So we interviewed a bunch of experts from all different backgrounds, but Catholics who are involved in the conversation around AI. And we hope to make more social content and more podcasts and resources for Catholics who are navigating this new age that we're in right now.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Okay, I really want to understand. Well, we'll come back to all of that. I want to understand more about what that means and what is obvious to you, and like what are some of those questions? Like, how are they having
Mm,
a different conversation, like you said at the Vatican, than is being
hmm.
had by pop culture or secular media? Um, yeah, I want to get into all of that. Okay, so just so that we stay with our little format here. So we did the opening. It's good to, by the way, what's your you're fascinated in this. What is your again, high level story? Why are you talking about or getting involved in this conversation?
I mean, I think probably like the internet bubble or the dot-com bubble, like, I'm sure there's some level of a bubble to this, but I mean, it's just the most fascinating thing going on macroly in the world in a way, and then it also is, very immediately practical to me. I mean, I went from, typing into ChatGPT like a Google search maybe once or twice a day. I went from that to using it 4 to 5 hours a day on average, like in terms of either voice or typing. And so, and even use ChatGPT to help me in a legal situation with court and representing myself pro se. So I mean, there's this, so the swing and how quickly that just kind of entered my life. It raised a lot of challenges and concerns, and then it also was exciting because people are concerned about it, and so it's forcing people to have conversations about deeper human philosophical theological questions, even if they're not spiritual, even if they're not
Mhm.
Catholic. It kind of raises up these challenges and these questions about what it means to be human, the
Right,
definition of work, things like that. So that's why I'm interested in it. It's just so fascinating and immediately, tangible, practical in my everyday life.
right, right. Yeah, and it's moving. It's moving so fast, um, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. I like it because it's forcing us to stop putting stuff off, and to pull the
Hmm.
brightest people together to really pay attention to this thing that's like evolving in front of our eyes in terms of what these things mean. It's so easy. The temptation is it's so easy just to go back and sort of retreat to business as usual.
Hmm.
Um, And I'm not sure that that served us very well. Like I was listening to a
Hmm.
podcast yesterday. Um, Orthodox guy was interviewing somebody else about, near death experiences. And the guy was breaking out, wow, there's 8 different responses that people have towards this. And most of them are, we don't know what it is. It could be dangerous. Let's just retreat back to business as usual. And this guy's like, it's
Hmm.
been 200 years or so of these stories
Yeah.
kind of rocking people's worlds. You can't just ignore these anymore. Stuff like that. Same thing now with AI. We got very not only got very comfortable, but then we got our culture has been challenged by a lot of bad faith actors, um, creating a lot of difficulty economically and whatever. And then to have this thing come in and it's leveling the playing field, and it's something that needs a lot of attention and it needs it very quickly, and so we can't avoid it. And I kind of like that. That
Mm.
it's a chance to shake up and force attention really quickly on questions we've been ignoring for a very long time or not taking seriously enough. Anyhow, so there's a whole sort of side thing. But all right, um, transition over to news, and then we're going to come back over to you. So news, community updates, and events for this week. And if you got any questions, love to know what you think or what's going on. Okay, major updates that we have had in the Legend Fiction community as of the last 2 weeks. It's not been that busy apart from we've publicly announced that we have 5 anthologies that are now live. And so people can, as soon as they join, they can have a look at the open call section in the left hand sidebar. And you can see all of the open anthologies that you can just start writing for. And as soon as we have 10 stories for an anthology, people can, we're going to publish them. And so we've got all of the information about people's copyrights and how royalty payouts and commissions work. All of that stuff is published and public, and anybody can read all of that, so you can get a sense of how we honor your copyrights and take care of you and what the process is like, the submission process. So that's all published on our website before you even join. And then you can even start a 30-day free trial to come in and have a look. And you can cancel at any time. So our goal is, as soon as you join, there are a ton of adventures that you can get in on. And if an anthology does really well, we might come back and just do a sequel. Um, So that's always going to be fun. So I've got like 3 or 4 new anthologies already cooking on, in the back corner. So it's kind of like, walking into a D&D kind of campaign central, and it's like all you got to do is dive into an adventure and start making friends with people. The way that it's set up is, you don't just go and start writing a story and hope that it works and then somebody rips into you and leaves you bloodied all over your desk. No, you first start by sharing a pitch. And for most of these, I am the mentor who is running these anthologies. So you'll craft a short pitch and you'll submit it. I will read it, give you some developmental feedback, or help you pull out or tease out, well, make your character do this and let's make your character stronger. And then once you get, some positive feedback, you integrate it, you work on it, you then get the go ahead to then write your story. And at that point, you've got a good sense of, one, there's a high likelihood the story will be accepted. Two, I have a good sense that you know where your story is going to go, and it's less back and forth and trying to figure it out after you've done the work of writing a 6,000 word little beast. So much easier once a pitch is signed off on. Plus, you can also get feedback from other friends and people involved in just that anthology. You can see the other pitches that can give you ideas. You can also give other people, ideas to help their stories get stronger. And then once you've got a story, you go and you post it in the stories forum as a way to give and get feedback from other people. So it's a very community based kind of thing. And then when it's done, we're going to publish it on Kindle, and you get a revenue royalty share of like about 7 to 10% that lasts forever as long as the book is up. So that's how we kind of pay you back or help you with your writing adventures. So that's about 5 are live right now. Grim Winter is popping off. It's, of course, because it's winter, it's the most popular. We have the Curious and Surprising, I think it's right, Curious and Surprising Adventures of Young Santa Claus is the second one. We have another one, which is Arclight Hollows, which is set in the Legend Haven event. That's 3. 4, we have the Emporium at the Edge of the Universe, which is a cabinet of curiosities kind of fun thing. And then the last one is called Fell Semester, and it's like Hogwarts, but dark academia kind of thing. So we have
Nice.
Gianna with us. Let's welcome Gianna in. Hi, Gianna. Welcome to the live stream. Hope you can see us. Hey, there you are. How are you?
Doing good, thank you.
Your voice is a little soft. You might just need to tilt your camera a little closer or something. Gianna is one of the members of our collaboratory, and she actually is helping me to run it. So it's nice to have you jump on, Gianna.
Of course, and pardon the background. I couldn't get
nice
the blurring
kitchen.
effects to work, but great to join in. Apologies for being late. I just had an errand that I needed to do, but I am here. So.
No, that's awesome to have you with us. I was just catching up Edmund. He's our guest. We're talking about AI and creativity today. That's kind of his bugbear or his passion.
Are you
Just
the
catching
AI
up.
Faith guy? I saw something on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and I shared it with Dominic, and I said, this is really cool. We've been talking about this stuff, and so okay.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
awesome.
you're right.
Yeah.
You brought the whole thing to my attention because I'd been off LinkedIn for ages.
Okay, gotcha. I'm so glad I was able to help to bring visibility to that. So yeah, this is so cool. I'm glad to see that we're talking about this. This is a really, as a writer, this is a really super relevant topic, and so I'm glad I was able to join in on this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
happy to be
I'm
here.
looking forward to your questions, and we're gonna get into all of it in a minute. I'm just getting through the news section for this part of the show. Then we'll get into the guest of the week. So I just shared with Edmund and, of course, the live streaming, the community, the 5 anthologies that we have, and I've got about 3 to 4 more that I want to be adding. And so, hint, come and join, and maybe we'll talk about that later. The second major update is that we wrapped our Legend Fiction Writing Month, which is a 30 days to 30K writing challenge, kind of a replacement for NaNoWriMo. And we mostly started for our community. Anybody could join us. It was a small and kind of focused kind of thing. And we have some of the most beautiful and the best feedback I've ever seen for people who absolutely loved the experience. They loved showing up. They didn't write 30K words, except for Father Roderick, who was kind of the host of the thing. He burned through 100K words for his novel. It's just incredible. So he's publishing all of that, I think, on Substack right now. Anyway, most people did like much smaller amounts, but what they loved was building the habit, the sense of camaraderie, the feedback, the community of just showing up every day and like, well, I wrote 10 words, I wrote 1,000 words, I wrote 100 words, and but mostly people having fun, which is basically the point of a writing challenge. And so we've decided we're going to do 2 of these a year, and we're going to do them right after the Legend Haven event. So 2 weeks after, we'll then do a writing challenge for 30 days. So we'll have another one in, I think it's May, and then we'll do another one again next year in November. And it was super cool. People just like typing in all caps, "That's awesome. I can't wait to be there for it." So hopefully people can now look ahead to twice a year to being able to focus on, I'm going to write my novel during this time, and I can spend the rest of the year kind of planning for it. We're all going to write it together. I remember that's exactly how I felt when I first learned about NaNoWriMo. I thought, oh, I can now have a deadline for all of my planning. So apart from that, shout out again to Gianna and to the Collaboratory. It's a project that we are quietly, slowly getting off the ground. We've built out this community for authors to write and create together. And then half of them are like, well, I'm at a point where I've done the creative part. I now need to figure out the marketing part. So we built the Collaboratory as a set apart space for authors who want to talk about how they're marketing together and not feel like they got to do cringe TikTok dances and, buy my book 50 times to actually try to make sales. Instead, we want to think together and brainstorm and come up with ideas together and share what is working, because there are so many tools. So I already meet with people like Gianna or another one of our mentors in the community, Gabby. We meet every week almost and talk about what we're doing and what's working and stuff. And I figured, let's just turn that into a group and let's just start wargaming this stuff together. And members of the Collaboratory are, of course, able to jump on the live stream like this, ask questions, share their updates and stuff like that. So, Gianna, if you want at the end, as we come back for the host project updates section, I'll ask you how you're doing. And I know you started writing a story during the challenge. Okay, so that's news. Anything that I missed, Gianna, that feels top of mind for you, or is that probably the 2 major things from the last couple of weeks?
I think the only other thing to call out is, if you want to join the Collaboratory or are already in the Collaboratory, submissions are still wanted, and I have one that I'm currently editing, so I'd love to see more. It's always really great to see what people are writing, and they'll be amplified on the LegendFiction blog if you just submit. So please submit. And happy to work with you on those.
That's right. Yeah, we want to publish. Members of the Collaboratory, we wanted to collaborate with you and feature you on our blog and give you access to our audience and grow with you. And of course, if you're sharing a blog, it's probably something really cool that you're talking about. So you should probably come on the show and talk about it too. Okay, let's get back over to Edmund. Thanks for waiting so patiently. Edmund, let's go a little deeper into this conversation around AI. Gianna, you sort of missed the intro. If you want to let you bounce back and catch that replay, but you already have a working sense of this conversation. Yeah. So what I'm really curious is, you said 2 things that really, well, 3, okay, you said 5 things, but understanding AI. I'd like to go back and talk about that. You talked about the wisdom of the church, understanding how to use AI in the context of the wisdom of the church. Okay, I need to understand what that means. Then you yourself said you had some of your own challenges and concerns about it. And then if we can get to it, you mentioned that the people at this conference were having specific questions that you're not seeing other people get to. So this is my list of stuff, and see how fast we can get through it all. But first, let's talk about, I want to talk about what is the wisdom of the church that is valuable to be bringing to this conversation around AI. So before we get to that, let's talk about AI. Why is it such a valuable thing, especially in the context of Catholics and creatives? Why is it something that we should not be running away from, but we should actively be, maybe not actively, or maybe it is actively. Like, what's your take on how we should be orienting ourselves towards this tool that is just taking over the culture, whether you like it or not? How are you making sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I mean, these are not my original unique insights, but are you familiar with Marshall McLuhan? Have you heard of Marshall McLuhan, Catholic
Medium
author?
Is the Message.
If you've heard,
I started reading a little bit of him ages back.
Yeah, if you've heard The Medium is a Message or The Global Village, he was this very insightful thinker about media ages ago, back around the time that color TV was like a luxury. But he talks a lot about,
Hey, looks like I'm not sure if I lost you.
Oh no, I think we lost him.
I think he'll be. I think he'll be right back. And hey, everybody in the chat. Looks like we have a couple of people joining us. Hi to Digital Novelist. Glad you caught the live. Hopefully that we can keep the live going.
He's
Hey,
back.
welcome
there you go.
back. Looks like it bounced out. You okay?
Hello.
Yeah, it said my recording had stopped. Am I good to jump back in?
I think
Yeah.
you're good. Yeah, keep on going.
Okay. Yeah, so Marshall McLuhan, he actually was pretty pessimistic and negative about, media and technology at the time. But when he was asked, why do you talk about it so much? He said, like, whether I like it or not, it influences everything. Like, it influences not just how we think consciously, it influences everything around us, like at an unconscious level. So I think whether we like it or not, like you said, AI, the way the shift in how we interact with computers and with information shifting to these neural networks and large language models, it changes everything. So I think starting from there is like whether we like it or not, even if we did the Benedict option and went into small little communes, if we have to interact with people out in the world that use AI, they're influenced by AI. They're, the way that they think, the way that they view the world. So there's that to begin with. And then from the Catholic Church and the wisdom of the church, I mean, you see this over and over again. I mean, I think of the invention of bioethics as like a field, right? Came out of doctors kind of getting to the point where they're advising patients, but are starting to step over into moral and ethical questions and not having the like philosophical, moral, ethical background. And so you really need a moral, ethical, theological framework for the human person to answer some of those questions. Or you think of self-driving cars and how quickly we got into moral and philosophical challenges with these questions. So the Catholic Church provides a really robust and true view of the human person, of morality, of reality, of the world. And so when we interact with something as kind of all encompassing as AI, you really, yeah, you need to have that kind of robust anthropology to pull from and to start from. I've heard that a few of these founders of these large AI companies are interested in talking with the Vatican and the Catholic Church precisely for this reason, because there's a clear, systematic, moral, and like there's a worldview around the human person. It doesn't mean that everyone's becoming Catholic, but there's just like this interest in having dialogue with religious institutes that kind of have a robust human philosophy, morality, etc. So I think that's really exciting for us, because that means that even if you bumped into a new age atheist in Silicon Valley who's thinking about AI and thinking about consciousness, it's very easy to quickly get into this realm of like, well, what do you think the human person is? Is it just material? Is it just matter? Or is there something else? Like, what is consciousness? So I think we're even seeing this in the scientific community, where people are starting to go, man, a materialistic, reductionistic view of the world might not be the best working model for everything, and we need something a lot deeper. So I think all of those things make this really exciting.
Yeah, agreed. So what I'm hearing is the the wisdom that the church is bringing to this conversation is a sense of dignity and value of the human person, something which is not. Well, this is a funny conversation. It's a sort of a sticky conversation about whether some truths are, religiously revealed, or whether they've now reached a point where they might have been religiously revealed, but they've now reached a point where everybody, especially in the First World West, just accepts them as a default. And you feel like you don't need religion to accept these ideas anymore, because they're so good and they're so true that they've gone so deep now down into our psyche that we affirm and accept them regardless of the religious institution that is flag waving the idea, the sense that every human has dignity and is, should be treated with justice and equality and humanity and all of this stuff. You go to some tragic third world countries in those situations where they definitely don't believe that. They kind of like
Mm,
and would wish that they could be treated, the way that we work and operate in the first world.
mm,
Um, but I do think that, and it does seem obvious, that there are some of these religious institutions, these churches that have these traditions, these robust anthropologies that you're talking about, where they cannot back down on these specific positions, like people are made in the image and likeness of God, or they have infinite value. And so to then go and create tech and to create tools um, that honor that's not going to run away into a paperclip problem.
mm,
Which, for those who don't know, it's the sense of you tell a robot or like an AI to optimize itself to produce the best paperclips possible, and they might decide, well, humans are ruining paperclips, and so I'm just going to kill off all the humans, and that way I'll be able to make an infinity of paperclips without problems. Like, well, okay, you've missed a fundamental rule of your framework and how you should be operating. And you're right. There's a lot of us, as we've dropped a lot of the traditions and we've thought ourselves out of our anthropologies, we now don't have a unifying sense of what it means to be human. And so you now end up with a lot of this transhumanism, like, well, if we can just unite with, or if we can disembody with, or if we can upload into, we'll be better and humanity will be better. And then the rest of us are like, I don't know. I kind of like walks in the park and ice cream and arguing with my family and having a dog. And I don't think I want to be a disembodied ghost in a machine somewhere.
mm. Yeah, just a random kind of, I don't know, controversial thought or just a incendiary thought. I really predict that I think paganism is going to become more popular over the next couple, like maybe 2 decades. Like I think that
So what do you mean? How do you define paganism? And say more, because that's intriguing.
Yeah. I think there's gonna be, if you see like this trend towards, like you see in the height of kind of modernism and postmodernism, like the height of our belief and faith in, and I mean like broadly speaking in the West, our belief and faith in science to solve and explain everything. And then you see over the last couple decades like that kind of breaking down and falling apart. And there's so many examples of different areas where it's breaking down for different reasons, but like, quantum mechanics and quantum field theory, like we're kind of like, what is going on? Like a materialist view of the world isn't really enough, or like a causal view of the world is not really enough. So anyway, so many other areas like that. And I think especially with things like AI, where they become these kind of black boxes, like we're so used to thinking we understand technology and machines.
Right.
Like we think in terms of machine, like the human brain. Like when scientists talk about the human brain, they're talking about connections and electricity and memory. Even our computer language and the way we describe parts of computers and the way we describe the brain are very similar. So as we start moving to this like black box we interact with that does these kind of like magical things kind of beyond our understanding, I think in a way it's going to, the answer to, okay, materialism isn't enough. There has to be something. It almost like lends towards this alternative in the other direction, which is like superstition, or there are forces. It's not that hard to think, okay, there's this black box of a large language model I interact with who has these phenomenal powers. Like, couldn't there be other, fairies behind, the weather patterns? Couldn't there be other things like behind? And I think it's a little different than like the New Age movement. I don't think it's just a like belief in some type of like general vague mysticism or like spirituality. I think it will move in the direction of kind of like pluralistic paganism. Like there are multiple entities and forces out there. So anyways, I that's kind of a prediction. This, based on some of our past conversations, Dominic, I feel like you'd like this train of thought, but just because it's interesting.
I don't disagree, and I definitely agree. And I could imagine, for example, some kind of a dystopian future where you do get stuff like Skynet, and then even if you don't believe that it has a theological meaning, but you recognize that functionally you have to operate as though you are ruled by an overbearing god, and you have to watch what you say and you think, and you have to watch your actions and how you interact with other people, because the all-seeing eye of this thing is maybe there's competing things going on, like what's that awesome show with Jim Caviezel? um Person of Interest, right?
Oh.
And so there's competing AIs going at things, and even if you don't believe that they're like theologically, spiritual beings, I can understand how people would very quickly get to a point where you could elevate effectively a tech to something like that. So that would be the worst possible situation. I think a more sort of moderate situation would be that we have, as Digital Novelist says, it pretty much works like that now online. Yeah, and I think that's probably true too. Still a lot of people involved, but I think there's a more optimistic sense that I have, which is, as bad as things can also get, all of these tools, I'm still convinced that a lot of these tools are technically neutral. And so they can be used and co-opted for an insane amount of good. And so it's like someone building a highway or a hammer. You can use it for insane bad stuff, but you can also then use it to build fantastically good stuff. And there's that line from like scripture where Christ says, like the evil that you do can be visited on the third or fourth generation, but the good that you do can go to like the 100th generation, because good of itself, it's unifying, it's healing, it's a strengthening thing, whereas evil of its nature is, it destroys, it breaks down, it's abortive, it can't hold together, we can't unify anything, not over the long term. You have to become absolutely monumentally massive to be able to maintain an evil structure. And the problem is we're dealing in a world that it's full of people. And you know what? I'm getting off into a sort of a tangent here. I want to come back to something you were saying, though. I think that there's a massive opportunity for good. I'll stop with that. Amid all of the bad stuff. Now, to your point about a pagan sort of a revival of a pagan sense of things, I do think that that's actually happening, and I think we're seeing that through re-engagement with nature, which we've lost. There's also a re-engagement with a lot of spiritual traditions. There's a re-engagement of a sense of like a re-enchanted universe, realizing, well, we're not as alone as we thought we were. And that's a whole conversation. But that's actively live, and there's all kinds of disclosures going on around that, which is absolutely riveting to get into. But then there's also just the recognition that the whole universe was created to be good, and we are not created as men and humans and people to just get out of here. And like, this is a pit stop on the way to somewhere better. We're created to be here, to heal here, and to make it better. And we're not getting out of here alive, and we're certainly not getting out of here alone. We have a job to do for all of us. And so I'm fascinated by this sense of what AI can do. It will end up changing the economy and the market. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be out of a job, which is a little bit terrifying. A lot of people will be. It's just, for some of us, it's going to be a matter of time. Especially if you're listening to like Elon saying, 3 to 4 years, AI and robotics will completely change, the economy. And he may be right. So we then have to get back to conversations around, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to, for business? And what's the appropriate way to handle each other and stuff? So,
could I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm just rambling.
I think this is so I'm interviewing all these fantastic experts, brilliant people on their thoughts on AI, and Marshall McLuhan just keeps coming up, and it's fantastic. There's an amazing YouTube recording of a long, like, hour and a half video that was made from some of his writings, and it's called "The Medium is the Message," or maybe "The Medium is the Massage." And then he also has a book called Gutenberg Galaxy. So I highly recommend start with a YouTube video. But one of the ideas that's very practical and would help kind of start bringing this maybe more practical for people who watch this later is he talks about the concept that every human invention or technology or tool extends a particular human faculty and then gives up some other faculty. So so like the wheel, for example, and he doesn't use the term faculty in the strict philosophical sense, but for example, the wheel extends our ability to walk. It extends the foot.
Mhm.
Or what was another example? The camera extends our eye and our eye's capability. So now
Right.
usually our visual field is localized. We have cameras. Now our visual field can be anywhere in the world, right? And so there's always kind of a trade-off. And I was thinking through this in one of the interviews with Dr. Brett Robinson, I believe, who's at Notre Dame. He had this really cool program called Church Communication Ecology. And he talked about how there's actually like an ecology of communication and media and technology and all these things. But one thing we were talking about was what's the faculty that large language models extend from the human person that might be different than like an
Good
internet
question.
age,
Yeah.
a digital age. And we were talking about how, in the digital internet era, with computers, this first kind of phase of everything, it really extends our memory and our ability to access maybe information, right? So it's like data. But
Mhm.
with these large language models, some people might be tempted to say a large language model extends maybe our reasoning capacity. I think it's actually a little different. Like I think the large language models extend our ability to make connections between ideas. It like
Mm.
helps us kind of, I mean, the data is all out there, but then when you interact with the large language model, what you're really doing is taking three different ideas and smushing them together and saying, what are we going to come up with? And so Dr. Robinson mentioned he had a friend that said, I really think this AI age will cause us to reclaim the medieval. And when you think about it,
Like a medieval cosmology, you mean?
yeah, just like the medieval like way of like the intellect in an intellectual sense, like
I see.
in the way that when we have access to all data and you interface with something that just can take any information anywhere and combine it together, suddenly what's important to you is not using this thing to remember something. What's important to you is using this thing, bringing it some ideas so it can combine them. So you start having a more oral interaction, a more like your memory is really important because you're not using this primarily to access memory. So
Mhm.
I think like actually we're gonna have more and more people who if they have in the back of their head a list of the sources they want to go to or the books that influence them or the people or the ideas, when they go to interact with AI, having all
Mhm.
that stuff stored in your memory already, you're gonna have a better quicker interaction with AI
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
having to rely on like, oh
That's
man, what
so
is that
cool.
thing?
Yeah, I've got a follow-up thought. But Gianna, is there anything that you wanted to ask or throw in before I hog the mic again?
Yeah, yeah. As I've been listening to your conversation, like, and just for a little bit of context, I, for the last year and a half, job searching right now, I worked at you know, a partner of, Salesforce, which is really big into AI. So I have a really so I've been immersed in, all the conversations about AI and, data, large language models, and so I get to see just kind of like, the enterprise like use of
Mm,
it, which of itself, like, enterprise AI tools, they're made for, a variety of industries, and including people who are more creative in my field, which is, like, marketing or like, communications. And yeah, I definitely do see like um I definitely do see like, the invitation for people to, use these tools. They will help, augment, and they're really specific about the word of use, like, augment, your workflow, your productivity. And
Mhm.
mm-hmm,
I think that, and I think, especially the more the with these vendors who are making AI tools, whether regardless of whether, they also make, these tools for, the faith-based organizations, is that, there is a level of intentionality that they are keeping in mind, because they are where, like, there is still a lot of, like, the pushback about, I want to keep my work human. Um,
mm-hmm,
so I think that, along those lines, I'm listening to this conversation, with that, also that lens in mind. And so I think,
mm-hmm,
definitely what we're talking about is, it's pretty interesting. The paganism part, is a bit new to me. So I was a little bit surprised about that. But I think like, people are um, like people are aware that, a lot of the talk about, what it means to be human and like, exactly to what you said, leveraging, these tools to extend or augment like something about us that is human. I'll stop for now at that because I can go on a tangent myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if same, like at the risk of kind of derailing this conversation, that concept around paganism, it's personally fascinated me outside the scope of this conversation.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Digital Novelist in the chat. He hit you up with he said, cool thought, Edmund, about sort of the sense of the medieval mind, and the ability to connect ideas together. What I've been struck by is, so Digital Novelist says, extension of connections is a big benefit of AI. I think that's absolutely true. What I've had a sense is that with the internet, we got access to all of the data, but the problem was there's a lot of bad faith actors and there's a lot of misinformation. There's disinformation and so on. All that's going on. And that was all happening before we had AI anyway. What I've seen, the insane value of AI is, one, you're absolutely right, to be able to network and connect ideas together that we never have before because we were all air gapped. And that's why, one of the reasons why I think, like in the 12th century, we had kind of a renaissance that sort of started before the Black Death seemed to shut everything down. And then it came up again like 200 years later in the actual Renaissance we all know and love. But they were doing something insanely cool and clever there, where they were gathering all of the learning that had been stored during the actual literal Dark Ages from the fall of the Empire. And they were surfacing the stuff together in the academies and the cathedrals, and they were starting to share and read and network. And you get Thomas Aquinas doing his thing, and then we sort of lose ground for a minute, at least in Western Europe. From what I can understand, the Arabs are just like cooking with oil or whatever over and doing their thing, and then we go and we learn from them in the Renaissance and import it over, and then it's like this watershed of just all of the information that we had been isolated from before, all of a sudden is connected together. And then you throw the internet on top of this 1,000 years later or something. Well, that's not true. 500 years later. And all of that information from all over the world and all the research papers. This is why it's such an awesome time to be alive, in my opinion, if you're a nerd like me and us. We have access now to all of this. Now we got a problem. And the problem is filtration, I think.
Yes.
And that's where I think the genius and the necessity of AI as a tool is to filter through. And so it's partly to connect together, but it's also to take the parameters that we put to it and go look for everything that relates to this, that might be ancillary to this, and then filter out everything that does not serve, this particular goal. And then you get a million people all kind of doing this. Well, then you get this kind of exponential growth and improvement, because now we're now at a point where, whether we like it or not, we have the wheel, we have the car, we have the plane and the internet, and now AI, and the human family is now networked together like we have never been before. And so the global challenges and all of the challenges that we have to face, we're now aware of them like never before, and we have to start doing something to solve that. And so that's one reason why I think when people go like Elon Musk said recently, look, what a great comment here from Digital Novelist. Hero in the chat there. Problem today is curation. Humans will still play a huge role in this. That's right. AI can never curate. It's the humans who have to give those sort of orders. So finish my thought. Throw it back over to you. Elon is saying stuff like, well, the future will probably be what he says, universal high income is going to become a universal need, maybe, where everybody gets paid basically not a basic amount to subsist, but a good amount to actually live well, because the cost of goods and everything is going to come way down with AI and robotics, and it's going to be so much extra money, and people are still going to need to live. And now they're going to be able to stop doing tedious, boring stuff that kills your soul and rots your mind. We're going to be able to focus on things that are actual meaningful, for us. Doesn't mean we're all going to be dancing and writing poetry, but there's so much work that needs to be done. And then my problem is everybody in those conversations stops at that point, and they all think, wow, life is just going to be so boring, isn't it? And I'm just thinking, are you kidding me? That's some parts of North America might be like amazing, maybe. Look at the rest of the planet and the human family. None of them have access to any of this. So as soon as we get something like amazing, the job for the rest of our lives is going to be carrying this out to the entire rest of the human family in a massive project that will not end in a single lifetime, to help all humans achieve a sense of dignity and well-being and safety. And that's going to be an absolutely massive challenge and an issue to teach and heal and inspire and all of this stuff. So there's going to be an incredible amount of work, but it's an absolute gift to be able to reclaim your soul, stop wasting time in absolute tedious work, heal yourself and your imagination, your ability to impact and help others. Like, we can drop ship stuff to anywhere in the planet now. That's insane. And that's going to be able to help so many people across war zones and, natural disasters and whatever. So I don't see a boring future. I see an incredibly busy future as we can finally start getting out of, I have this image in my mind of like Cold War era, sort of 80s and 90s. Okay, we all love the 80s and 90s out there. I don't necessarily, maybe, but the sense of mindless work that you had to do, just punching stuff in and out of a machine because there was nothing else to do. And so many of us are still living that kind of a life. Well, I am happy for all of that tedium to go away, because AI is allowing us to reclaim a sense of humanity back. Because frankly, all of this work-related stuff is made up. And then we just keep stacking stupid on top of each other until we get to the point where you're burnt out chronically and you wonder if life has any meaning, and you still have to show up and do stuff you don't care. And I'm like, just make robots do that anyway, because that's not actually contributing to human thriving and, a soulful living. Okay. Back over to you and what you think. But my major thought is filtration and curation is central for this overwhelm of stuff that's all now we have access to be able to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to now connect stuff together and speed up learning curves and whatever. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, I know there are other people who have talked about the curation idea, but that's been something on my mind for a long time, even before AI made it so pressing. But yeah, 100%. And I think the complementary point to that is that it really all revolves around trust. Like, if there's a YouTuber or an author that you trust and admire, you trust their recommendations better. And a lot of this is going to come back to challenges and questions and conversations about how much we trust the answers we're given by AI. I mean, there's already
by the way, it's hilarious where people are like, oh my gosh, look at with AI, you can't trust anything online anymore. And I look at them and go, dude.
Yeah.
When could you ever?
Welcome to the party. Yeah. Welcome.
Like every digital native has always known, triangulate your data. Never trust anything just because it's on a blog. Otherwise, you now end up being like, it's true because I saw it on TV. And everyone else is like, please don't believe anything on TV.
100%. And I think in the big buckets I think of like the .com digital era we've just lived through as very focused on data. And this new era is very different because it is curation. It's not so much, I mean, we've been able to access what feels like virtually any data we want. And so now it's algorithms and curation help that a little bit. But this new era is going to be a lot more about who we trust, because it's going to become a thing that, I mean, there's not just a few feeds we go to get information. AI will be in everything and everywhere. The data and all of these things will be all around us. We'll be interacting with them. So it really will matter who is recommending things. So I've heard other people talk about this, but it's less of a content economy and more of a wisdom economy. It's like, what do you do with the information? What information do you select, and what do you apply, and how do you apply it? The other thing that came to mind was the dignity and definitions of work. I think a lot of people think, oh, technologies and tools will help rid us of the burden of work. Well, we're never going to be rid of work, because work in the Catholic definition is something that has dignity and that we end up doing anyways. Like, even the richest people in the world have some type of work that they do in their daily lives, because we are just naturally designed to participate in creation, to put effort towards something, to create things, to express ourselves. So I think that's a really fascinating place to go down. The other thing just to mention, Daniel Priestley is an entrepreneur who talks a
Oh
bit
yeah,
about AI, and he said,
he's with
um,
Score app, right?
yeah. He described it as like, like you were saying, there's up until this point, a lot of work is like labor, like direct labor to a certain degree. But AI much more resembles like agricultural um, civilizations where you might put a lot of work up front into something. You design a prompt, you put the data all in place, and then you get it started, and then you kind of wait. So you might,
Mm.
3 to 4 people might come together and do a sprint for a week or 4 weeks to work on how do we get this all set up and running? How are we going to get this started? And then that AI system is just going to go work on that. And then what do we do with the rest of the time? Well, what agricultural societies did with the rest of that time was they had parties, they held festivals, they attended weddings, they had feasts, they told stories, they sat around talking about what's really important.
And
Um,
just in case you got too comfortable having all that fun, there would be storms that come through, and there'd be pestilence issues, and then somebody's house would fall in, and there'd be a threat of a forest fire, and it's like you're still dealing with all of this anyway amid
yeah,
everything. So it's
yeah, 100%. So that's all really fascinating. I think if the big thing in most people I talk to, the big thing they're thinking about, because we all have this survival instinct, it's like how do I prepare myself or protect myself from what might come next? And Marshall McLuhan talks a lot about this self-awareness or this kind of meta awareness of what we're interacting with, like asking these questions and taking a step back and like, what is my definition of work? What would I do if I was just given everything materially I needed every day? That's a fascinating question to ask ourselves. Even very devoted Catholics, sometimes you ask them that, and they really stop because
Mhm.
the our capitalist society is so deeply ingrained in us. We don't
Yeah.
even stop to think like, what would I do if I
You know
did
what I
not
think is
need to?
interesting along those lines is the idea of a lot of religious communities. It seems like they came together to field test that specific idea, which is um, well, in the sense of a religious community, they go, we need people who are spiritual specialists, over and above everybody else in the human family, the human community. These people are going to specifically dedicate themselves to practicing these disciplines to see what happens, and also
Hmm.
model it for the rest of the human family. So to
Hmm.
do that, here's the context: all of your basic human needs are going to be met. You're going to be guaranteed 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day. You're going to be guaranteed a roof and a place to sleep and a place to be safe, and a community that cares for you. They might suck anyway, but that's the
Hmm.
idea. It's kind of interesting to now wonder, maybe we need to go back and look at how did they constitute themselves as a community. And I do think that is going to be an answer for us.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
um, I think it's Jordan Peterson with his ARC conferences where he's been talking about the idea, or somebody said it there, the sense that poor people, or when you are poor or under stress or in a state of difficulty, you're not going to take care of things like creation, the environment.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
too desperately trying to survive.
Hmm.
But when you actually there's wealth, there's plenty, there's enough. It's these rich countries or rich people who now have the breathing room and the time to think about, let's heal this planet, let's heal our area, because
Hmm.
we now have to pass it on to the next generation. You're not thinking of the next generation when you don't know what happens for dinner or tomorrow. So
Hmm.
to then realize it actually, what it takes to actually help people isn't a lot. For a lot of these mega billion-dollar corporations, it's a rounding error to provide life-changing, generation impacting, change. I think
Hmm.
that's where a lot of our conversation is going to go, if the future that these mega, you know, companies are going towards, and advocating, where they think it
Hmm.
might go. It's this kind of thing that I think you're saying the wisdom of the church is going to keep leading into. It's like, okay, great, you got all this stuff. Who are you with it? And now,
Hmm.
who are you going to be, or what are you going to do with it
Yeah.
to help the human family?
Yeah.
So, kind of to yeah, go ahead and make your point, and then I want to bring
Well,
it
no,
home to. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of ask, like, I'm thinking about your audience, and I'm wondering what you both think are the most practical applications, or like
That's exactly
what
where I
are
wanted
the
to go. Let's bring
yeah,
it
like
home for
what are
creatives and
they
authors and
what
stuff.
are they like really like? How does this enter into their world? You know, like
Hmm. Well, before I answer, Gianna, do you have anything that comes to mind? I'll be mean to make you go first.
Yeah, as one of the things, when you were talking about like, curation and filtration, that's I think one of the hugest aspects about these generative AI tools. And I do actually like appreciate like how some of them actually like will cite like, what their sources are. 'Cause I remember actually just hearing this and I laughed when I kind of laughed, but also shook my head when I first read the story of how like this like lawyer used chat gpt, I think, to like cite a case that never existed to begin with.
mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
but chat gpt like
Yeah.
created or something. So now I think like there's it's really good now to see like really good generative ai tools will actually like cite their sources, and they'll even say like chat gpt can be wrong, please fact check.
Mhm.
But going back to like, what the human aspect of it, I think one of the things that the proliferation of these AI tools is actually giving us an opportunity to like really actually like think hard about what does it mean to be like human, what does it mean to like create. I think more than ever people are actually like really thinking hard about that, because there's now like they now realize there's an AI tool that could probably displace me or my job. And so I think that's one of the silver linings, or it's one of the good, I guess, like outcomes of these generative AI tools. But yeah, going back, but then like when you talked about just kind of like trust and like like who do I trust, what are my sources, I think trust is like a really huge part, a really human thing. And I do think it's something that AI definitely cannot 100% do, because I think you definitely need you need two people to be able to create trust. And so like I think generative AI can only so much give you tips about how to trust people. It can only give you like trust skills, but you need like another person, another human being to actually teach you to like what it means to say, what it means like trust that person. And it is like an element that AI companies are actually like integrating into like their strategy or approach to AI. And Salesforce, I know, has a huge thing about like they even have this thing called the AI trust layer, which shows like exactly like this is how we use like these technologies like within AI, like safely and ethically, blah, things like that.
Mhm.
And in terms of like for us as like authors and within this community, like similar, I guess, to like how all these religious communities came together. They people, there faith inspired fiction authors and writers in the world, or here, like they're coming to like legend fiction, like for a reason, because they want that community, they want like that specialization. um and so I think that's kind of like where I can um and one of the things that I think is part of like our, I want to say like our brand, is that like well, um is we do have like the we do keep in mind the presence of AI, but we really, I think we're really good about encouraging the people in our community to like use your human creativity to actually write, but here are some tools that can help you in the process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing, so I'll stop there for now.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. That's a good way to put it, that there are these tools out there. And I think what's one thing that might be a strength for our community is that everybody who's a mentor or at a founding level, like me, tries to have a deep understanding of how AI works, uses it regularly. But when it comes to what we're doing as authors, as creators, um, we're okay. Well, you're not outsourcing yourself or the skill and the discipline of learning creative writing. You're not outsourcing that to a bot. You're actually trying to put in the practice of, I myself want to learn this skill. It's like somebody doing ice sculpture, and I think it's
Mhm.
or carving with stone or whatever. There are people who will always want to learn how to do that for yourself. You can take a mold and then run off a ton of factory produced output. You can bring a chainsaw to the game, and you can just like it's a different skill, but it's not the same as chisel and hammer. But it's like when what was it? Cars came up. Maybe people said, "Well, we're never going to ride horses or walk anymore," but we still want to walk. We still in ourselves want to learn the work and skill of learning how to do something, because your body is itself part of the experience, and how you use the tool and the gift of your body um, is part of what the experience of being human. And we don't always want this constant extension outside of your literal skin edge. We don't always want other tools constantly coming in and speeding it up, making it faster. Sometimes we want to make it slower. So there are times where I will use AI and it'll be creative and give me a complete creative output, and that is cool and awesome. But I'm not going to take that and like put that as an output into this community, because the point of the legend fiction community as storytellers is you have to learn, and we're coming together because we want to learn the craft of story writing in ourselves. We want to learn the discipline, the process, the enjoyment, to find out what happens to me when I become or I seek excellence in this particular skill. And so knowing that there are tools like AI, and there's an infinity of ways to use AI that can help you and surround and amplify, right? Like as I'm writing, I'll routinely have, now as of the last 2 years, I'll have chat open in other tabs. So I'll be writing, it's like, what's a better word for this? Or here's a concept and I don't want to lose my flow. Give me other ideas for this concept. Oh, perfect. Okay. And then I can go back to actually, writing, or it'll help with research. Like it's so much faster to research and to find exactly the stuff that you want and to go on the rabbit holes that are actually helpful to you, as opposed to authors routinely saying, man, I wanted to research for 2 minutes and I found myself 10 hours later learning all the wrong stuff, and it was cool. And you could then ask, well, if you'd had the right research assistant, you might have spent more time actually creating instead of learning all of this useless stuff that actually doesn't serve you at all, apart from being cool. Now, if you're a research nerd like me, learning how, pointless stuff is always helpful and valuable and pointless. Anyhow, got a cool little comment here again from Digital Novelist saying, great point she made. So kudos, Gianna. The challenge is balancing what AI provides with human instinct.
Yeah,
Which I think that's an interesting one there.
Yeah, and another thing that I'll add too is, and I don't want to presume that the people who are like resistant to AI, I don't want to presume that they think that it's bad because it will like take away like our human freedom or something like that. But I do think there is like that train of thought. But I think like for people who do like actually know how AI works and like what makes like some of the really powerful AI tools like really great is that there's actually like these guardrails built into it. It tells like the AI like here's what not to do, or like here's what not to generate. And I think that I think the best kind of AI is also about like context, because that's what like grounds like the response that you're going to get. And so what it's really valuable to plan that the best kind of like AI tools are actually the ones that do have like these ground rails like built into it. And yes, in essence they kind of act as like limitations, but kind of like how God and with humanity, like God created us with free will. So it's so in a way it's still like incredibly powerful, but it still allows us to like proliferate a lot of these like really powerful like generations and like food for thought. So
yeah,
but that again it needs a human a human for that.
Well, the human is the human is the point of everything. The human in the context. So back over to Edmund and sort of final thought, and I'll toss it back over to you for this part of the conversation. The people are saying stuff like, oh, look, with generative AI, nobody's going to create art anymore. Nobody's going to write anymore. And I look at that and think, I don't see how you get there. I think there are some people who were never going to write or create art anyway. And now this is a tool that's going to allow them to sort of do that. And you can then still ask, okay, they're having their heyday now, but nobody really wants to see badly made generated slop. But not all AI generated stuff is slop. So we need to have a bit of a smarter kind of common sense conversation. When you have an artist using AI, you can get stunning stuff. Not all artists want to, they don't have to, but not every output is slop. There is a lot of slop. but it's to say that, oh, a human writes it, I'm gonna show up and pay attention to that. It's like, humans were creating slop before AI showed up, and we've had a lot of artists shipping absolute slop for a very long time because they could and nobody cared, and they could make a lot of money doing it, and it didn't help human thriving or contribute to the um, human culture or anything like that. So it's not a good enough argument to go, at least it's human. It's like, no. And everything is AI slop. We should dump it all. No, that's not true either. Um, I've got this working theory that a lot of generative AI, and it's at its default settings. Okay, this side of an artist or somebody with excellence actually working with the tool to get the output that they want. When you're working with a lot of default settings and people who don't know what they're doing, it's a bit like Timu. What do you call it? It's like bottom of the market Timu creative direction. It's like not that good. It really works well. It can work well for the bottom of the market, but if you have the income or if you have the vision and you've got the funding, yes, hire real artists. It's always going to be better, and that's always a better thing. Not everybody can or has access to it, and there are some artists who are going to do incredible stuff with AI. So, closing thoughts. I can see your brain has been churning over there.
Yeah, I mean, man, I could talk about this for hours.
Which is why you started your whole podcast anyway.
Yeah, I think for this community, for the audience, for you guys, I think, yeah, I would probably just close with just some thoughts on art. I'm glad we're starting to, or I'm glad we've been discussing that. Yeah, I would just close with a thought. I subscribe to the idea from a famous quote that there's no such thing as art, only artists, and it comes from the opening line of a art history book. And I like that. And I like the idea that also related is Andy Warhol's quote that art is what you can get away with. And I would highly recommend, as really a practical homework suggestion, is there's a recording of James Baldwin delivering a speech on the artist's struggle on YouTube. And he talks about how really at the end of the day, art is about describing what it is to suffer as an individual in such a way that it becomes universal. Like if I could describe to you what it feels like to experience life, in such a way that it resonates with you, I can be released from the pain that I've experienced in isolation. I can connect with others. And I think that's at the end of the day, in a way, all art is communication and it's self-expression. It's describing what it is to be human. And so it makes sense that Marshall McLuhan would say that artists are the early warning detection system of society, that they are the first ones that kind of see what's coming. And he prescribes art and art appreciation as a necessary requirement as an antidote, a necessary requirement to everything that technology and automation might harm in our human dignity. And I think a really, really practical, suggestion or prescription is for everyone to spend time or to appreciate, or actually to train the muscles of their perception of art and of experience, of human experience, like to train their eyes to actually see the world. And I think that's that it's going to become one of the most valuable skills. I think it's the antidote to these new technologies. I think it's so important in this AI world that we see that at the end of the day, like that's one of the most core and fundamental elements of being human. And the artist and the fiction writer is, I want to describe what it is to be human. Like I want to describe what it is to suffer and to experience life. And if I can just describe that in a way that connects and resonates universally, I can be freed of this burden, freed of this struggle, and I can connect with others. So
that's so cool. I like that phrase, early warning detection system for culture. That's really cool. And I'd kind of gone the other way and thought that when culture crashes, creators or artists are the first responders.
Ooh, yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
But I like the early warning detections. That's kind of cool. That makes me think of like Carl Jung having these visions of the fact the war was coming years before it ever happened, and it's like crashing into his psyche, and he's trying to make sense of it. You said something interesting. Oh, I've got this idea of how an artist is a bit like someone is a bit of a synesthete, or someone who has synesthesia. For those who don't know what that is, I don't have it. Gabby actually has it in our community, I think. But synesthete is somebody who, when they perceive something, other senses come into play. So when they hear music, they see colors, I think. Or when they hear words, or when they see things, other senses fire off the way most of the rest of us don't. And I think it might be actually be interesting or true that an artist is someone who's like that, in that an artist cannot just sort of take in an idea. When that idea comes in, it's like a whole nother sense comes crashing in to clothe that. And that can be so confusing and fascinating that you can just sort of freeze like a deer in headlights and not know, what do I do with this? And it can be really hard to learn to build up, like you said, that muscle or the skill of converting this idea that shows up completely in an unusual way into maybe something auditory like music, or maybe into something like, I'm going to try and clothe these visuals. I now need to try to wrap them and clothe them into words, or I got to assemble a team and try to create video to capture the depth of this vision or this image that's inside me to try to share it with others, because it feels important. It feels like it matters. So it's interesting you say about the sort of the pain or the suffering, but it's the enduring of that process that is so uniquely human. And that's where I'm convinced we can get really hung up on a lot of the art that we create. But in my opinion, the art that you create can be beautiful and valuable, no argument. But it's the byproduct of you. You are the point. To find out what happens if you can sort of give birth to this wonderful, beautiful thing. Maybe it'll help a ton of other people. But the mere fact of you learning how to do that, you've now leveled up or become deeper or more open or porous to things that are trying to communicate with you. So you're the point. And it's you got to be careful about not being too precious about the byproduct. Like you say, art doesn't matter, or not doesn't matter. You said art doesn't really exist. The artist does.
Yeah.
That's such a fascinating point of view. We got to kind of wrap here. I think let's wrap there. All right, let's jump into the rapid fire questions. Like I said, I'm going to try to annoy you in
let's
about
do it.
5 minutes, see how fast we can get through stuff. I'm going to start with the last question and work my way up. Who do you want to be when you grow up?
Currently?
Yeah. So right now, who do you want to be when you grow up?
I'll take Matthew McConaughey's I want to be me in 30 years. You know, that's
okay. Who's your fictional crush apart from Matthew McConaughey?
Fictional crush. Oh my gosh, what comes to mind? Fictional crush. Wow, I'm sorry I'm holding up the whole conversation on this. Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Hey, we stumped you. No worries.
Yeah. Oh, probably someone from Lord of the Rings. Oh, the elven queen that Aragorn falls in love with.
Galadriel.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind right now. That's not a great answer.
That's good. Are you a creative?
Oh no, you know who it is? You know who it is? It's Rogue from X-Men. As a kid, like Rogue from X-Men. Was like just who I had a huge crush on.
That's fun. Have you written a book, or are you writing a book? Is that something that you're doing?
Kind of. I semi wrote a book a while back, but all it was a PDF. But yeah, I'm currently in the process of writing a book on the catechism that I'm excited about.
Okay, awesome. I'll skip that question because it mostly relates to fiction. What do you allow yourself to splurge on?
Recently, what I allow myself to splurge on is what I call like vibe wondering. And related to AI, vibe wondering is just like allowing myself to just explore ideas for as long as I would like. So there's vibe coding, but then there's like vibe wondering. So using AI, going on a walk and just being like, you know, how did the military uniforms from the 60s connect to like medical inventions and the whatever, you know, like just weird, crazy, random stuff.
That's fun. I almost want to have you back to talk more about how that works. Okay. What do you like most about yourself?
What I like most about myself, something that my mother definitely gave me, but the 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 protest of joy, like the decision to protest suffering and evil with just joy and levity and yeah, just enjoying life and people even in the midst of suffering.
That's good. That's awesome. What time of day are you most productive?
Whoo, late at night.
Really?
Late at night when everyone is asleep.
Okay. Would you trade intelligence for looks or vice versa?
No, I don't. No. No.
Nope. All right. What's something you've never been able to do well?
Oh man, so many things. I mean, as a late diagnosed ADHD person, understand a calendar year. I have no mental model of a calendar year or time. I have a very hard time mentally understanding or recalling time.
Yeah, well, I hear that. If you had a time machine, what time period would you travel to?
Oh man, probably one of the. Again, I'm bad with history and time periods, but in oh man, what's the Owen Wilson? He's in France. Midnight in Paris. One of those older time periods like that they show in that film.
1700s, 1800s?
Yeah, or like Hemingway, the time of like Hemingway, or like Paris when all these like artists and writers and everyone are all together in Paris, maybe.
Oh, that's cool. Stupidest question that you've ever been asked as a creative? And you can say skip.
I mean, the stupidest question I've ever been asked by a creative most often is, should I do this? And it's always like, yeah. If you feel compelled to do it, then do it. Don't worry about whether or not other people have done it or you should or shouldn't do it. Like, if you feel compelled to do it, do it. Like, write it, create it, say it, make it.
Yeah, try it. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Chicken Alfredo.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gianna, I've got to ask you, what would you choose?
Oh, okay.
Hot seat.
I'd probably choose fried rice. It has all the vegetables and the protein and the
Oh, that's all. That's a more responsible decision, yeah.
and it's also really good. So.
I didn't say you had to be responsible. I have no idea. Too ADD to pick. That'd probably be some sort of pizza, probably for me. Favorite surprise ending in a book?
Oh, the ending of The Man Who Was Thursday still gives me chills. Like, one of the few times that I shuddered at the end, like had a physical reaction reading this end of this book. I think it's one of the most beautiful things. I've tried using it in talks or giving people like an experience of it without reading the whole book, and I haven't been successful at that, but I highly recommend reading that whole book. Don't look up anything about the ending. And it just, the last couple lines, I like shuddered.
That's awesome. All right, last question. Apart from that, a book that you wish more people knew about?
Oh, right now, a more like right now book is Think Again by Adam Grant. I think that's really, really good. I wish more people knew about that book.
Sweet. That's cool. That's cool. Well, thank you for coming on. This was fun.
Yeah, it's always so fun.
Agreed. I mean, there's so much more, obviously, that we could have talked about. But for Gianna and myself, this is kind of our, as we close, and before we close, Edmund, where can people find you online? What's your website? Especially
you can find
AI project.
Yeah, you can find me at edmundmitchell.com. I'm the most active on Instagram, but the faithinAIproject.org, I believe is the correct. faithinAIproject.com. I'm sorry. That's where you can go, and we're on podcast apps, and we're not on YouTube yet, but we have the audio versions of the podcast and clips on Instagram. But faithinAIproject.com. It's a great place to go.
Awesome. Well, you're welcome to stick around and you're welcome to chime in. So we're just talking about creative projects as we close out that we ourselves as hosts are working on. And uh, I'll go first, Gianna. But I have a bunch of projects that I've been trying to work on and I've been absolutely awful at getting to, largely because life just keeps happening. And this past month, it has just been crashing in with dentist appointments and uh, mice infestations in the kitchen, and it's just been moving stuff around, and it's just been ridiculous. So I haven't done much writing, but I did start this morning, and I'm going to try to finish it tomorrow. I started writing a short story for an anthology I want to launch, and it's it's one of those moments where you get into writing. Like last night, I'm falling asleep, and I've been waiting and waiting. Like I know I want to write this story. I have the characters, I have the pieces. I don't understand the story, and until I get that, I won't start writing. And then last night, I had one idea that just kind of came right in of a banner, and it's been torn down and it's scarred, and there's a piece of a crystal tooth lodged in it. And I thought, oh, that's the opening scene. That's what ties this whole thing together. Why there's this, this guard on a wall waiting for his friend way out in the dark to signal him at the second watch of the night. Something is ripping down the banners around this city that's like far away from everywhere, and nobody knows why, and he has to go out and rescue his friend. And the inciting incident is the he's called to have a look at that banner. And so this morning I woke up, that's it. I got to start writing, pounded away. I got about 2,000 words in, and I'm going to try to finish it tomorrow. And it's set in the world of actually the next Legend Haven, which is going to be in April. So every Legend Haven con is not just a gathering together for funsies. It's also part of this big expanding world filled with stories that we're creating. So we were at Arclight Hollows back in November, and that's like a big kind of desert-based place that looks very epic. Now we're going to Bannermark, which is a white city built in a crater where long time ago some ancients summoned a god out of the constellation and crashed into Earth, and then they built a city on top of it. And so I wanted to write a story set in that, and so that's what this story is. And we'll open an anthology and get lots of people creating more stories in that. So that's been mine, apart from trying to create like a 17th century mashup novel, which I mentioned last week. I haven't made a lot of progress with it, but it's been very cool to keep doing a ton of research. I found stupid cool stuff happening in Paris right before the revolution that all ties into it. So maybe I'll get back to that as I keep rebuilding confidence in writing. And sometimes just writing a story gives you a little bit of confidence to get back into it. So that's my end. Gianna, I think you said you were writing a little bit during the challenge. How's your writing going?
It was. So this is like as the premise of this story that I have, and I just in a nutshell, it started just from as like back in my gamer days, which are long days gone by. It started as like this fan fiction idea, and I realized I wanted to make it my own without the original like copyrighted stuff. But the premise is it's set in this fantasy world. It's inspired and based on the aesthetic of the Victorian era, like late 1860s, I would say. It's set in this fantasy world where half of it is divided in light and darkness, and the main characters of this story are the heroine is from this realm of day. She finds herself in this realm, hidden in the realm of night, that where people who don't have this metaphysical light in them, that's where they end up. And she falls in love essentially with the leader of that world. And it's almost kind of like has those Beauty and the Beast kind of like themes to it, but it also explores like what it means to be a human being, because of this the essence of like what is light and what is darkness, and what is
That
love.
is cool.
So, yeah.
That sounds like an epic reimagining of that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Edmund, if you have any creative stuff that you're working on of late?
Yeah, I'm working. I mean, that feels like a huge loaded question. I think the thing to that you guys along the lines of what you guys are sharing is working on a book. I'm working on like the outline of a book, so I'm in like the outlining stage, which can be hard for me because I want to include like everything
Yeah.
in the book. It's a nonfiction book, but has stories in it and stuff. So a book on the catechism and helping people kind of unlock and use the catechism themselves.
Nice.
So
That's cool. One has to, well, as you get closer on that one, hit me up. I want to talk more about that.
Yeah,
That
would
sounds
love
really
to.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, friends. What a cool live stream. I can't guarantee we'll be back next week. I might try it, maybe on Wednesday instead of Thursday. So we'll see what happens. If not, then it is what it is. But keep writing. If you haven't checked out Legend Fiction, head over to legendfiction.com. You can start a 30-day free trial. Get in there, lurk around, have a look and see what's going on. Maybe jump in, get involved in things. After that, it's only $10 a month. And we have loads of incredible people in there, like Gianna. And loads of people who are writing and sharing stories constantly, who give feedback, and they always do it positively, because that's one of our cardinal rules. You don't savage anybody. You don't give negative feedback to anybody unless they really, really, really ask for it. And then you're like, okay, let me DM you. So we're very, very supportive, because a few good words can like absolutely make someone's day, because it did for me years ago when somebody was very kind on a forum, and I doubled down on the good thing that they said I was good at forever. And now I think I'm very good at it. I'll let you decide. So we decided to build a community around that. We're going to be uplifting and supportive. So come and check it out. We're the coolest community of storytellers in the world, because we said so. And you're free to argue with us, and we'll probably agree with you because we're the coolest. So check it out, legendfiction.com. Hope to see you there. Have fun. If you got any questions, drop them right in the comments. We would love to bring them up next week. I totally forgot to bring up the AMA section because we were having so much fun with Ed's conversation on AI. But it's a valuable and a massive conversation for sure. Alrighty. Maybe till next week or till next time. Keep writing.